What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's second stimulus check update, stimulus package update, and stimulus news report for Sunday, December 13th. Right now, we are getting word that that bipartisan group that is negotiating this $900+ billion stimulus package or COVID relief package, they are making progress. So that's good news. For the past few days, Mitch McConnell's staff have confirmed that it is highly unlikely that Mitch McConnell would actually accept a package that doesn't have his exact liability provisions included. Now, what most people are wondering is, what are these liability provisions? What does Mitch McConnell want that Democrats completely oppose? Well, it's not just Democrats that oppose this either. Mitch McConnell wants a 5-year liability shield for virus lawsuits, and this will go back until December 2019. So we got 5 years in the future, all the way back till December 2019. So if businesses, for whatever reason, helped spread the virus, or if somebody were to catch it, get sick, and die, they really couldn't do much. They could do a lawsuit, but the problem is it would be so difficult, and the upside to that lawsuit would be so minimal that it just wouldn't make sense. So right now, Democrats oppose this as they say it takes away all of the workers' and the consumers' potential legal recourse. So right now, the bipartisan negotiators are having a tough time putting together any compromise deal on this, as Mitch McConnell has stated he won't compromise on this policy. So because of that, they are trying to piece together a solution to an issue that Mitch McConnell and Republicans have. But now the new issue is that this bipartisan group is allowing Nancy Pelosi to get her way of $180 billion for state and local government funding, something like that. What is it? $160 billion for state and local government funding, but they're not letting him get the one thing that he wants. Nancy Pelosi wants state and local government funding. Mitch McConnell wants liability protections. And so he's pretty much saying, well, why does she get what she wants, but I don't get what I want? So another back and forth game. Now, one thing I just want to throw out there is that the liability protections for businesses, this is a pre-COVID want or demand for Republicans. Republicans have wanted this for a while, and it's because they believe, and it's not just Republicans, some Democrats believe this as well, is that they believe that businesses should have some protection so that somebody just couldn't come in, let's say, slip on the floor, you're fake that they slip on the floor, and go and sue the company, and the company goes under. They just want that kind of protection. Well, this right now is pretty much taking their pre-COVID demand or want and now making it a COVID-related policy. So they're kind of bringing in their past wants and making it a demand now, saying, oh, this is a COVID expense, this is a COVID-related issue, when really it's not. So just want to throw that out there. Yes, there will be COVID lawsuits no matter what, but we'll have to see and kind of deal with that as they come. Our best bet right now, and this is not just me, this is from experts actually, in this negotiation, this bipartisan group, they are saying the best bet right now is to just drop liability protections, drop the state and local government funding, and let's pass what we can at this time. What they actually said was, let's drop liability protections and whatever policy is currently tied to it. Well, we know it's state and local government funding. So here's what we know regarding the stimulus package as a whole, though. Right now, Mitch McConnell demands liability protections that Democrats and labor and civil rights groups can't get on board with. He has a demand. He has a red line. This is it. The liability protections have to be in this policy if state and local government funding is to be approved. That is what he's saying. He's already said publicly this past week, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, he said, I think it was Wednesday, he said, let's just drop liability protections and state and local government funding and pass what we can agree on. Well, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer shot that down on him almost immediately, saying, no, we need state and local government funding. I personally believe we do need state and local government funding. $160 billion is a good number to start with. Great. Do we need liability protections? In some way, yes. But the way Mitch McConnell is putting it out there, I don't think that's going to be best. It would be great for the businesses because they'd never get sued. But for the consumer and the workers, there's no protections there for them. It strips them of all their recourse. So that's currently what we know right there. Nancy Pelosi has gotten her $160 billion for state and local governments. Some Republicans have already stated they will vote against any policy, any bill that has state and local government funding in it. So we know just by adding in any amount for state and local government funding, we'll see less and less Republicans vote for this. And we already know it's going to go through the House, no problem. It's the Senate. It's the Senate that we're going to have an issue with. And if the right person has an issue with it and it goes to President Trump's desk, he will not sign this bill. He's already said that he supports another bill. He'd like to go larger, but at the same time, if the right person says, hey, President Trump, let's not sign this. Let's rework this. Let's get back to the negotiation table and let's try again. He would most likely veto that bill. That would be great. We also know President Trump, and he said this morning, that he wants to see checks for more money than they're talking about going to people. He's saying he wants larger stimulus checks. He would like larger unemployment checks. He'd like both of those things larger. Larger than $300. Larger than $600 one-time payment for stimulus checks. He wants to see larger payments. The reason why, he didn't state this, but based on all reports, President Trump at some point in the near future is going to say that he is going to rerun for president in 2024. If he does, getting a stimulus check out now, getting larger unemployment checks out now while he's still president, and his names go out on these checks, it's going to look good when it comes to this re-election in 2024. So right now, President Trump is doing whatever he can to get more stimulus checks, larger unemployment benefits, and really any stimulus out to the American people because he knows this is going to benefit him. But on the other hand, Nancy Pelosi and Democrats know this will also benefit him as well. They didn't win this election by a landslide like they were predicting. And based on some reports, is that because of the fraud, that is the reason why Democrats won. And you come 2024, they might not be able to get away with these games. Again, that's not what I'm saying. That's just what some of these experts are saying, is that in 2024, Republicans are going to be on the lookout for some of these things that happened during this election, and it will never happen again. So right now, Democrats are worried that if we accept a $908 or $916 billion stimulus package, and it includes larger unemployment benefits, or it includes stimulus checks to the amount of $600, $1,200, maybe even higher, that this is actually going to benefit President Trump. And right now we know Nancy Pelosi will not do anything that benefits President Trump. So, multiple Democrats in the House also have stated that they are not certain a deal gets done at this point. They have stated for multiple reasons that they are just worried that they can't come to the table and reach a bipartisan agreement on this package. Some have requested that the bipartisan group takes out state and local government funding and liability protections as well. Some Democrats have asked this. Why don't we just take this out and we will pass it on the next bill? One staffer told Politico that a vote will be had no matter what this week. So let's break that down because that is big news. How will a vote happen without a bipartisan agreement? How will it happen? First, By dropping state and local government funding and liability protections, this will actually reduce the size of the stimulus package to about $750 billion. By reducing the package, and this would be passing the bipartisan package of $908 billion, which means there's $300 per week for 4 months for unemployment benefits, but there's no $600 one-time stimulus check. So this would actually reduce that from $908 billion down to about $750 billion. Now, getting Nancy Pelosi on board to put this bill on the floor most likely will not happen if there's no state and local government funding in it. However, there is a possibility that Republicans could ask Democrats to sign something called a discharge petition, and this would simply allow Republicans to put the bill on the floor so they can bypass Nancy Pelosi. The issue with this is it will show how divided Nancy Pelosi is with other House Democrats. And this close to the January 5th Georgia Senate runoff election is not going to look good for Democrats. At the same time, Mitch McConnell doesn't want to put a bill on the floor, no matter what the bill is, unless he has all support from Republican or the Senate Republicans, his GOP. So right now, again, it's still a political game, but a bill could be voted on this week as long as either it has Nancy Pelosi state and local government funding in it, and if it has liability protections, so be it. It might be in there, but who knows at this point. But as long as it has state and local government funding in it, Nancy Pelosi will put it on the floor for a vote. That's in the House. In the Senate, that's a completely different story. And what's currently being reported is that many people are saying, let's put it to a vote in the House. If it passes, wonderful. We'll kick it over to the Senate, and now it will be on the Senate and Mitch McConnell to either say, no, we're not going to do that. And then now Mitch McConnell looks bad because now he's preventing millions and millions of Americans their unemployment benefits, rental assistance, food assistance. Okay? If there's a stimulus check in there, he'd be risking stimulus checks, PPP funding for small businesses that he has said himself it's critical. They need this funding and they need it now. So this is what's currently being reported, is that we could see a bill this week. We could see a vote this week. Whether or not it has bipartisan support or not doesn't matter. The goal with this is to push Mitch McConnell to make a decision. That's the goal. Now, I just want to put this out there because I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, that's great. That's going to work. That's going to light a fire under him, and he's going to do something. Here's the other issue. If they do this to make Mitch McConnell look bad, not only could this hinder the stimulus negotiations, this could also prevent Mitch McConnell and the Senate from agreeing and passing a government funding bill. So not only does it hurt the American people, it also hurts the government as well, because there's a high possibility, a good chance, Mitch McConnell and other Republicans in the Senate take this to heart. And they're like, you know what? You did this to us. Here's what we're going to do. And that's not going to do a whole lot. That's going to be very bad for millions of people. Now, here's what we know. In order to get a bipartisan COVID relief bill done and put together, here's what needs to happen, and it needs to happen quickly. First, Mitch McConnell either needs to compromise on the liability protections, which as of right now we know he's not really willing to do. Based on what all of his staffers have said, that he is not willing to compromise at this point. Or he can drop liability protections altogether. And this is something he has stated himself he's willing to do if Nancy Pelosi drops state and local government funding. Now, if Mitch McConnell drops liability protections, then Nancy Pelosi will have to get rid of state and local government funding. And this would be put into the next bill. The next bill, when that happens, chances are, just based off of what I've been reading and based off what a lot of these lawmakers have stated, the new bill will come sometime in January. It will start to get negotiated as soon as this one's done. Now, here's the thing with that, is just because this one gets done, if it does, okay, if it does, I don't know that yet, if this gets done and passed, the next bill could be even harder to negotiate than this one. Just put it out there, okay? This could be the easier bill than the next one, and that would not be great. So, the next thing is stimulus checks will need to be included in this proposal in order to get more people on board. Democrats are going to vote for this, and they're going to come out in waves, and a lot of them are going to vote for it and say, yes, this is a good bill. Let's pass it. But some are going to say no because there's no stimulus check. Okay? We already know AOC wants stimulus checks, and she might not vote for this bill if there's no stimulus check for $1,200. Josh Hawley, a Republican, will not vote for this $908 billion stimulus bill or even a $916 billion bill if there's no stimulus check for $1,200. Even Bernie Sanders has said the exact same thing. There's others as well. Those are the three most notable ones. Also, in order to get this passed, here's the big kicker. Republicans would have to support a bill that reaches roughly $1.1 trillion. So about $200 billion on top of the $908 billion. Again, here's the way it actually works out. Okay, I just want to put this out there. Because this bill actually dropped from 908 to about 750 billion by taking away the state and local government funding. But at that point, you're going to add about $300 billion. Some are saying it's going to be about $350 billion to that package to provide a $1,200 stimulus check, the second check. If this can be agreed upon, then the details of this bill will come out very quickly because they can pull some of this stuff, some of the text from the CARES Act, and the rest, right now it's stated that this bipartisan group has all the text. They have the bill ready to go. They are just waiting on liability protections and state and local government funding. That's the big issue. So they can pull from different bills and pretty much make a new one. If this happens, a deal could be struck before the end of this week. Again, they're saying a vote's going to happen either way. So a deal, pretty much passing this bill both in the House and the Senate and have President Trump sign it, it could happen sometime this week. If this deal happens, we could see stimulus checks before Christmas. And if this happens, unemployment benefits would only see a possible 2-week delay. So that's good news there. Now, right now, we still have lawmakers fighting over the $908 billion proposal versus the $916 billion proposal. Which one's better? But at least they are attempting to work together and settle this out. Right now, this is good news that these lawmakers have not just thrown in the towel and said, we'll deal with it next year. When everything just comes crumbling down, we'll deal with it then. It's going to be better and easier to deal with this now before the first of the year, because at that time, okay, everyone's backs are going to be against the wall. Every American is going to be looking at Congress and wondering, what are you doing for us? That's what they're going to be wondering. So let's get into the COVID-related news for today. The United States reported yesterday 207,444 new COVID cases, which is much better than the day before. On December 11th, we reported 280,514 new cases. Yesterday, we also reported 2,259 deaths, which is down from a week where we pretty much saw 3,000 deaths per day. That was a horrible week. Right? Let's get past that. The hospitalizations are continuing to rise, but at a much slower pace. Now, you may think this is good news. This is optimistic. This is what we've been waiting to hear. But here's the problem. What you need to understand is that when the rate of hospitalization starts slowing down, okay, it's actually due to the fact that there's less beds, which means the barrier to entry for the hospital actually increases. So this means that they are turning people away with limited or moderate symptoms. Limited or moderate symptoms can quickly turn into severe symptoms. And if there's no room at the hospital, somebody could just die at their house. So that's not good news. Today, also Pfizer's vaccine is being distributed to roughly 175 hubs across the country and should be ready for vaccination sometime earlier this week. That is good news. Experts say we should see around 30 million vaccinations between now and the end of this year. And that again is also good news, as long as nobody has any severe reaction to this vaccination. So that is what we know right now regarding stimulus and our COVID situation. As I know more, I promise I'll share more. Consider subscribing so I can continue to keep you updated on everything that's going on, and I'll see you guys on the next one.